Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanMuscle.com, and today we're taking a closer look at installing and listening to the C&L Bypass Valve Adapter available for the 2015 and newer EcoBoosts. Now, if you're the owner of that 4-banger turbo EcoBoost, you might be in the market for something that's going to make your S550 sound a little bit more aggressive in the realm of turbo sound by converting your factory bypass valve into essentially a blow-off valve. This is going to give you that crisp release of the excess boost out into the atmosphere that we all love from turbo vehicles. Now, let me explain exactly what this is going to do. So from the factory, your EcoBoost has what's known as a bypass valve, very typical for factory vehicles with the turbo. Now, the bypass valve's job is to recirculate all of the excess boost, the unused boost, back into the system, which prevents you from getting that turbo sound that we all love, the blow-off. Now, this particular item here converts that into the blow-off valve by adapting itself, placing itself in between the bypass valve and the charge pipe. What this is going to do is reroute that excess boost back into the atmosphere instead of back into the system. So instead of recirculating, it's going to be atmospheric. Now, the atmospheric sound is that awesome psh that we all know and love, right? So this is going to give you, again, that nice crisp sound of all of the excess boost getting pushed out into the atmosphere instead of being recirculated into the system. Now, the cool thing about this is that it's actually a lot more affordable than an actual blow-off valve. Now, this one comes in right around 70 bucks, and it's made of a CNC-machined billet aluminum, so it's made to be a perfect fit to your factory bypass valve and your factory charge pipe. Now, one of the big benefits of the bypass valve adapter is that it does not require a tune, so you can throw it right onto your factory bypass valve and not have to worry about picking up a custom tune to make it work. If you plan on upgrading either one of those items, you're not going to be able to use this. This is just to be used with the factory components. If you plan on upgrading your EcoBoost, getting it tuned, or even upgrading your charge pipe, you'll probably want to look into an actual blow-off valve instead of this bypass valve adapter to reap the benefits of the blow-off valve. So this guy is strictly for the stock or even mildly modified EcoBoosts. Now, the bypass valve adapter from C&L comes in right around 70 bucks, and if you compare that to an actual blow-off valve that cost about 250 or even more dollars, this is way more affordable. Now, it's available in the black finish that I have here in the billet aluminum, but it's also available in the aluminized finish if you're looking to give under the hood a little bit more contrast. This personally, I think, blends in a lot better under the hood. It doesn't look like an aftermarket part when it's installed, but if you're looking to get it to pop a little more, check out the aluminized finish. Now, this guy is going to get a very simple 1 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter here. Anybody can tackle this in the driveway at home. I'm going to walk you through every step of the process here from start to finish. What do you say we get started? Tools used in this install include a 1/4-inch ratchet, a variety of different size extensions, and a 3/16 hex socket or an Allen key. All right, now before we get started, I first want to point out where we're going. So if you look right at your coolant reservoir, directly below that, right here at the end of my extension here, this is your factory bypass valve. There are 3 Allen bolts or hex bolts bolting this guy onto your factory charge pipe. So what we're going to do is take a 3/16 socket and remove these guys. I'm using a couple of extensions just to make it easier for you guys to see so my hand's not in the way. But first, what I want to do is get this harness a little bit clear. So you can see the harness is actually connecting to the bypass valve. It's also connected to a couple of studs up here. I'm just going to pop these plastic clips off and just move this harness out of the way so it's easier to see. So I'll just put this guy up here, up and out of the way, just give it a little more access. I'm going to use my extensions and my 3/16 socket to remove these 3 bolts. All right, I'm going to break all 3 of them loose, and then it should be a lot easier. All right, so with them loose, I'm going to take my ratchet off and just use the extension to back these bolts out. I'll put my hand underneath so it doesn't fall out. There you go. That's 1. 2 more to go. All right, so this guy's up and out of the way. Now, you really don't have to unclip this harness. We're going to, just so I can show you guys, but you would just pinch and pull directly back. So I'm gonna pull this guy out and let's talk about the difference. All right, so just very quickly, we have our factory bypass valve here in my right hand, our C&L bypass valve adapter in my left. Now, if you were to pick up an aftermarket blow-off valve, you'd be completely replacing this entire unit. The blow-off valve is just a totally different unit. You'd take this guy out, set it aside, and install the blow-off valve in its place. Now, because we're reusing this, the bypass valve adapter is going to adapt right onto the back end here in between the bypass valve and the charge pipe. This unit here, and it's specifically formulated and cut holes, is going to recirculate or redirect that air into the atmosphere instead of back into the system. Now, what we're going to have to do is line up the holes on your bypass valve to the adapter, and it really only goes in one way. So if the holes don't line up, you're just gonna keep rotating it until they do. And then we're gonna use the 3 longer hex screws or hex bolts included in the kit to adapt it. So what we're gonna do is grab the hardware, put those through, line it up, we'll tighten everything down with just the socket and extension, and then we'll tighten it all back up. So let's do that. All right, now before we get started, a couple things you wanna make note of. Again, I already talked about making sure that the holes are lined up. You wanna make sure you're doing that before you start, just so you don't have to fidget with it down there. Secondly, the factory bypass valve has this rubber O-ring. If it's in bad condition, you might want to replace that guy. You just want to make sure you're preventing any boost leaks. And the same thing goes with the C&L. Now the C&L one comes with brand new dual rubber O-rings. You want to make sure they're seated properly. Underneath that seal is a little indent for it. Make sure it's seated properly. It's already seated there right out of the box, but things get shuffled around. If it's not seated, just double check. You really don't want to risk any boost leaks, throwing a check engine light or anything like that. So what we're going to do, just swivel this guy around, make sure we've got it aligned where we want it. We're gonna take the longer screws. I'm gonna put one through just to hold it in place. Let's grab this harness and plug it in. And then begin this process. We just want to get one started to hold it in its place. All right, so once you have all of them in place, just go back with your 3/16 socket or Allen key and tighten these guys down. There you have it. Well guys, that's gonna wrap this one up here. So if you wanna pick up the C&L Bypass Valve Adapter, it's available in black that I have here and also an aluminum finish if you're looking to give it a little more contrast under the hood. You can pick them up right here at AmericanMuscle.com.